Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on a hot and humid Friday afternoon. Not bad here in the shop, although I just shut my fan off, so you don't have to listen to it. I'm stripping a 4L80E, two-wheel drive, 1999 model year. It's been here in the holster for about a week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks. It showed up, it was complete. It's a core taken out of a van, I believe. And it was slightly dripping on the cart. I put it here in the holster, converter and all, with the intent to flip it up, take the bolt-on yoke off, flip it up, converter and all, vertical, and let it drain into a bucket. Well, I put it in the holster horizontal, and when this is flipped over the other direction, with the pin in my holder, it's downhill slightly. The phone rang. I came back 15 minutes later, and this whole area was under oil. Not under water, under oil. Everything, under the mill, under all my rubber mats. 3 hours. Maybe that's a conservative estimate to get it back to an acceptable level of dirtiness. So there it sat. I could tell by looking at it. It's a sight unseen job. I never saw the core before, but what I can tell you up here in the Northeast or anywhere in the Rust Belt, a few things about the 4L80E that are gonna be a pain. This linkage bracket has two Allen-headed bolts this direction. So in the vehicle, they'd be up against the floorboard looking down. If, and I knew this because I worked on a fleet of these, when the vehicle was brand new, I would take my Allen socket, get those bolts out of there, and put in regular M8 125 bolts. Hex head. So you could get them off in the future, because this bracket, when it's not bent like this one, is over the pan rail. So you either got to bend this out every time, that's what most people do, or if you're me, I can't stand doing that, I could take my bolts out that I never seized and everything. When the vehicle is brand new, get that linkage bracket out of the way. That's going to be an issue. You can tell how clean this core is, which means steel bolts in the aluminum case. The pan bolts were a struggle to get out. The heads of the 10mm bolts for the pan aren't quite 10mm anymore, and they're locked into the threads pretty good, but a simple tap with the hammer on the head. I would give it a shot with my 3/8 Milwaukee M18. And if it didn't immediately budge, some did, about half didn't, I would smack it with a hammer and then it would take it right out. So I didn't have to apply any heat to the pan bolts. To get this linkage bracket off, I'll have to weld nuts on it, on the Allen-headed bolts, because there's nothing left to put an Allen socket into. So I'll grind them flat, weld nuts on them, and take them out that way. The shift shaft, I will take it out as a whole and deal with it in a vise. I will break it now if I try to do that. I learned that a long time ago. Shift shafts are expensive. They're about 30 bucks or more. That's probably 40 or 50 now just for the shaft and the nut. I can save it in the vise. The shield that goes over here has 2 bolts. I, just for kicks, hit those and they came out. There's enough oil spilled out from removing the transmission. Maybe it acted like penetrating oil, but I was able to get those out on the side of the case, which is good. A lot of times those want to break off as well. So if you live out west, it's probably nice to just roll under the vehicle with some wrenches and sockets and take it apart. The tail housing, I had no problem whatsoever. So to catch you up to speed, I started stripping this a few minutes ago and decided, hold it, I should probably film some of this. There's been a lot of requests for 4L80E content, and most of the time I'm done by the time I realize maybe I should have shot a video there. you know, not as easy as a Turbo 400. They're not that much harder, but they're definitely not as easy. To shut you off and cough. It's already getting warm in here without my fan, so I should move this along. So I have got the pan off, like I mentioned. I took the pump bolts out of it. I got one stuck in there loose, just to keep it from falling out. Not that I think it will. And I popped the tail housing off. Took the filter off, put it over there in my drain bucket to drain. I have a couple drain buckets underneath because every time I spin it, oil continues to dump out of somewhere. So if you're doing this for the first time or the second time, or it's been a while, here's what I do. I got the pan off, I took the filter off, and you're looking at the wiring and the layout. There's clamps, there's a clamp here for the rear lube line. The wiring harness has a couple bolts. Just take your camera out and snap a couple pictures. It'll help you out in the long run when you go to put it back together. There's really no wrong way to do it, but it would be nice to put it back the way it goes. All the electrical plugs are different, so you really can't mess that up, but it's just nice to know where you started. It gives you a level of confidence. Do the same thing when you pull the valve body off and where all the check balls are. We're probably going to modify it, but just so you know, you feel more comfortable. If you're not familiar, if you're not doing them every day, trust me, the fog of time, even when you go to put it back together, like, where did those balls go? Well, just take a picture. We have technology in our pocket to do so. If you're watching this, you probably got a phone or some kind of intelligent device to take a picture. And yes, my name is Shawn, S-H-A-W-N. Disregard the shirt. This is just a shirt I bought on eBay. I bought a whole box of them. Made to get dirty, because I'm going to get probably dirty taking it apart. So let me put my gloves on, my glasses, safety glasses, Z87, whatever they are, and we'll continue taking her apart. All right, here we go. For tools, socket-wise, I'm using a 3/8 drive. You need an 8mm, 10, 13, and 15mm sockets to remove everything we're gonna do. Under the valve body, there'll be 2 Torx-headed bolts, so you're gonna need some Torx-headed sockets. So first off, I'm just gonna take a little screwdriver and gently unplug my wiring with the assistance of my finger. Doesn't take much, but you don't want to break the clips. There's harnesses available, reasonably priced. If you do break a clip or you suspect there's anything wrong with the harness, just go ahead and get a new one. Try not to wash the camera. Show you my lovely backside. One more. There we go. We didn't break anything. That's a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take the clip bolts out. They got to come out anyway. And the one bracket that holds the liquid tube, rear lube tube. I have my pan wiped out. It was pretty clean anyway. I'm going to set all the valve body related stuff in it for now. It's kind of wiggled. Don't want to bend this. It's got to go back in. Now we can just lay the harness off to the side. Later on I'll get a big socket to release the clips and put it in the pan as well with the rest of the valve body related stuff. So now we got the valve body ready to come off. I'm going to take my 8mm and take off the pillow switch. This has pressure on the other side, tells it eventually the PCM what gear the transmission is in. So they call it a pillow switch because, we'll show you here in a minute, and I just jump around pretending like a cylinder head or something. Like it matters. You can lay the bolts together. Doesn't matter. The only thing on that size to remove the valve body, 8mm is those. So I'm going to twist it a little bit. You don't want to pull it straight off because there's a little suction O-rings, but each one's a little pillow. Oil pushes on it like a pillow. This one's pretty clean. A lot of times there'll be a lot of metal debris stuck in there. Put that off to the side and we'll swap over to the 10mm. And once again, I kind of work from the outside in, opposite of if you were going to tighten something up. Starting with the linkage detent spring. I always thought it was interesting that they give you 2 bolts to hold this on. Most only have 1. These are all the same length. So you can go whatever fashion you want. I'll take some across the front. Work my way toward the middle. I like to keep them all together. Whoops, I missed one. Hate when that happens. She popped up. Now if we're careful, most of the time, not that we're going to reuse the gasket, but if you're careful and it's not too heat soaked or had water in it, the valve body gasket most often does not rip. And it didn't. This transmission is actually pretty nice so far. I'm going to set that right in my pan. Now, like I mentioned, if we drain a little oil out of this, you can see where all the check balls are. If you wanted to right now, you could snap a picture. Now things should look somewhat familiar if you're used to doing Turbo 400s. Everything's a little bit different, but I like to take my magnet and just pop out the check balls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That should be it. Looks like it is. Throw those in the pan for later. This transmission is pretty decently clean. Again, this looks somewhat familiar, but different at the same time. Parts will not interchange to a Turbo 400, so I'm going to go ahead and take off the rear servo. Same deal. I kind of just go cross hatch. Sometimes I loosen them all. She popped up, and here comes another flow of oil. The oil never stops. Pretty clean. I mean, this is an area where debris loves to sit. Also watch this, because this is still caught. It probably won't fly too far, but if we mitigate the chances of it will getting wet, I like it better. There we go. And guess what? More oil. At this point, I'm going to tilt her down, drain out some oil. Yeah, it's hard to believe this thing still has oil in it from the mess it made, but it does. Did I say 7 check balls? 8, that's why I went slow. It's always unnerving when you flip it up and you realize you forgot one. All right, we'll let that drain for a minute. All right, it's gonna get some of it anyway. Again, it never stops leaking. So, I also made a mistake earlier. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm just talking, shooting at the hip here. The front bolt is Torx. To be specific, T40. So let's go ahead and take that out. Supposed to be a throwaway bolt. Some say that's debatable. The rear is 3/8 12 point, just like a Turbo 400. At least this one is. I swear some of them were both Torx, but I could be wrong. Once again, be careful of the case. You don't want to make any high spots. It comes out a little dry, but that's okay. Longer than a Turbo 400. But it's doing the same job. It's holding the center support in. So, a few more details here. I guess I got to break this up in sections. This video is already getting long. But a few things that'll still reach out and grab you. I'll show you the tool. I think I have shown you the tool. Nothing but a piece of, I believe it's 1/2 inch NPT, a nipple that threads right into the filter seal and allows you to wiggle it out without hurting the case. Works mint. This little nail sticking up, you can't probably quite see it, to hold the shift shaft in, unlike a Turbo 400 that goes this way. This is a nail and it's got like fins on it, if you will. It wants to break off really easy. Be super careful prying that out of there. Take a couple of angled pry bars and kind of pop it out of there. Pocket pawl, very similar. So I guess that's this group, if you will. We're now ready to pull the pump out and pull the insides out. Well, I guess that'll be next. As an experiment, I have turned the fan back on. I want to see if I can hear it in the background as I say goodbye. So the next video, we'll take the insides out. I'm sorry you didn't watch me hammer on the pan and the tail housing, but that's pretty rudimentary stuff. Again, caution, just don't strip out the bolt holes. You can fix them, but you have to fix them. So if you can avoid having to do that, if nothing else, you save money in thread repair. So I feel much better now the fan's back on, and I'll catch you in the next video.